Even though you know your wife is secretly selling sex, you can't bring yourself to stop her shameless behavior. Because the money she makes just barely covers the car payment. You earn $190,000 a year, yet you're drowning in debt. Today is payday, you stare at the balance, it looks decent, and it buys you exactly 6 hours of peace of mind. Then the calls start coming, your landlord chasing rent, the credit card app flashing the minimum payment due. Your son's school bill, payday turns into the day the devil shows up. Your wife goes out to see clients every single day, just to help you keep things afloat. The moment you close your eyes, all you see are images of her sleeping with other men. You can't sleep anymore, and you start asking yourself where everything went wrong. How did a salary that looks pretty good on paper drag you deeper and deeper into quicksand? Did you not work hard enough? Were you not frugal enough? No. Most people aren't broke because they are lazy. They are broke because they believe the most comforting lie in personal finance. I will save whatever is left at the end of the month. In reality, there is nothing left. That line sounds responsible, it sounds mature, it sounds disciplined. But in real life, it is a trap, and that is exactly what almost no one wants to hear. Your first million didn't stall because you lack intelligence. It stalled because of the default way money is handled. Not having a trust fund isn't the main problem. Not having a finance degree isn't the main problem either. That's why all the tired, recycled advice falls apart. The moment life gets loud, just be more disciplined. Track every cup of coffee. If you want success badly enough, it will happen. Sure, that stuff sounds great on a podcast, but it doesn't survive rising rent, endless overtime, or a boss who says, let's talk about that next year. When you're completely exhausted, that's when goals quietly slip out of reach. Harry learned this the hard way on about $38,000 a year, roommates. Credit card balance swinging down, then snapping right back, to maxed out like a rubber band. Not because he was reckless every day, because the old script kept repeating. Get paid, breathe for a second, spend carefully, get ambushed, patch the leak, promise to reset next month. So let's kill another myth while we are here. Wealth is not something you start after you finally make enough. Later is where good intentions go to die, if you can't hold money when life is tight. More income alone usually just gives your lifestyle a bigger mouth. That sounds small, it isn't. It is the hinge everything swings on. Because once money sits in your spending lane, your brain counts it as available. Once it feels available, every bill, every craving, every little emergency lines up to claim it. The lie was never that spending is evil, and that's where this gets simpler than people think. Not easy, simple. You do not need a personality transplant. You do not need to become the kind of person who color codes spreadsheets for fun. Because the people who quietly build real wealth are usually not performing financial genius every month. They are removing decisions, they are making fewer promises to themselves, and setting more automatic rules their tired brain can't sabotage. Once you see that, the whole story changes. So if you've been proud of trying your best at saving what's left, I need you to let that idea go. It has probably cost you years already. The good news is the fix does not begin with some heroic sacrifice. It begins with one cold, unromantic shift in order. Your future gets paid before your month starts eating. In a second, I'll show you exactly what that looks like with a real number, and once you see it, you may never look at payday the same way again. Here's where the lie really breaks, because the numbers don't care how motivated you feel. Harry was making about $38,000 a year. Strip that down, and you are not looking at some glamorous runway. You are looking at a paycheck that already has jobs assigned before it lands. Rent, food, minimum payments, transit. Now make it uglier. If you tell yourself you'll just invest more later, the clock quietly punishes you. A $200 monthly investment for 15 years can beat $400 a month started 5 years later. Read that again, because this is where most people lose on intelligence, not effort. They think size wins, time wins. And the percentages matter more than the ego. Harry started at $150, then raised it by $25 per paycheck, until he reached 20%. That's the part people skip, because they want a dramatic reset instead of a ratchet. But that slow climb is exactly what makes it survivable. If you're paid every 2 weeks, that extra $25 per paycheck is about $50 a month. Not painless, but not life-shattering either. Debt works the same way in reverse. Snowball the smallest balance first, or avalanche the highest APR first. But automate it so balances only move one direction, down. What you are buying is not just lower debt, you are buying back monthly cash flow. That matters because every dollar no longer feeding interest can be redirected into assets. So when you hear just save when you can, reject it. That's vague advice for a precise problem. On $38,000, a protected $150 matters, a protected $280 matters more, a 5-year head start matters massively. If that stings a little, Good. That sting is the sound of fantasy losing its grip. In the next part, the question becomes simple. Once the gap exists, where exactly does it go? So it starts working instead of sitting still? This is the part most people never say out loud. The game is not separating hard workers from lazy people. It's separating people who convert effort into ownership from people who convert effort into bills. You can feel that difference in a single payday. Money lands for a few hours, you breathe easier, and that's why two people can be equally disciplined and end up in completely different futures. One person keeps selling hours and consuming the entire result. The other starts attaching each extra dollar to an asset, even if the amount looks almost embarrassingly small at first. Same tired body, same alarm clock, totally different destination. The system rewards ownership, not effort by itself. Effort without assets is just maintenance. Look at the pattern underneath Harry's choices. He stopped trying to be exciting with stock picks and accepted boring because boring kept him in the market. That matters because every time you jump in and out, hesitate, wait until you learn more, or treat investing like a hobby you'll start later, you're standing outside the machine. While time does the compounding for people already inside it, the winners are not always smarter. Then income goes up a little, and this is where the sorting gets brutal. A raise can become ownership, or it can become takeout. A better car payment, nicer furniture. A slightly more expensive life that feels deserved because you're exhausted. The market doesn't care why the money disappeared, it only cares whether the dollar bought an asset or got absorbed by lifestyle. Harry asked for $5,000 with a specific case. He didn't let that raise dissolve into comfort. He sent it straight into automated contributions. Same with the weekend work, 4 hours, 2 batches. $150 each, not glamorous, no personal brand, no fantasy of instant freedom, just a small, real problem solved for local businesses. And the payment funded his IRA. That's the layer most people miss. Extra income is not powerful because it makes you feel richer. So when people say, I'm working so hard, why am I not getting ahead? The uncomfortable answer is often this. Because your effort is still entering the economy as consumption, not ownership. Not because you're failing morally, not because you're not trying, because the pipeline is wrong. And once you see that, you stop asking whether a dollar is big enough to matter. You ask a colder question. Did this dollar buy me more future cash flow, or did it just make this month easier? Here is the part that has to be boring on purpose, not inspiring, not clever, boring. Because the moment your paycheck gets a little bigger, your brain will start whispering that the real problem was your chair, your apartment, your phone, your clothes. Your need for just one thing to make life feel easier, that whisper is expensive. So don't make a dramatic promise that you'll never enjoy money. Just use a simpler line, not yet. Not until your automatic contribution rate is where it needs to be. Pick the target first, maybe that's 20%, maybe it's 30%. If you want this to feel real, shrink it to 12 weeks. Not a makeover, a lock. Weeks 1 and 2, make the money visible. Rename the accounts so your phone stops lying to you. Bills, spending, wealth. Then set the first automatic transfer at 5 to 10% of take-home pay. Small enough that you won't panic. Real enough that it leaves the account before your mood gets a vote. In the same 2 weeks, cut 1 recurring expense and 1 impulse category. 1. Weeks 3 and 4, make the floor less fragile. Move emergency cash into a high-yield savings account. Aim for 1 month first, later, build it to 3 to 6. If debt is sitting there like a weight on your chest, choose a method now so you stop renegotiating with yourself every Friday. Snowball if you need quick wins, avalanche if you care about interest math, then automate the extra payment, again, boring on purpose. Weeks 5 and 6, invest in the least exciting way possible. Open the accounts you actually need. Weeks 7 and 8, don't chase a fantasy career reset. Raise income where you already stand. Write a 1-page outcomes memo, plain language. Here's what I've improved, here's the value, here's what I can own in the next 60 days. Then have the conversation, weeks 9 and 10. Test a microservice, not a new identity. A 48-hour outcome someone will actually pay for. Message 20 people, email, DM, whatever gets sent. Do 2 paid pilots, not 10 free favors. 2 paid pilots so the market can answer honestly, then refine from what they bought. Not from what sounded smart in your notes. That's the whole point. You are not managing 1,000 decisions anymore. You are protecting a few fixed movements that happen whether you feel rich or not. If you had to reduce it to 1 action tonight, make it this. Open your banking app, create 1 automatic transfer for the day after payday, and name it wealth. Even if it's only $25, especially if it's only $25. Because the amount is not the breakthrough. The promise here is not that your life suddenly becomes glamorous. It's that it becomes less fragile, less one bill away, less dependent on you being perfectly motivated every single month. That's the real payoff, not a fantasy screenshot. That's why the finish line in this video is boring in the best possible way. You make one decision once and your future messy self gets carried by it. The day after payday, money leaves before your impulses get a vote. Fine, let it be $50. Name the transfer wealth. Let it hit your investing account automatically. Choose one broad index fund and set the same amount to auto-invest the moment it lands. And that is the only kind of plan worth trusting, one that still works in a bad week. One that still works when rent jumps, when work gets chaotic, when the market gets loud and your stomach tightens. You are not promising yourself brilliance, you are building yourself an exit ramp and a buffer. Could that path lead to 7 figures over time? The answer is yes, quietly, mathematically. So do the tiny thing now, while this is still fresh. Set the transfer, set the fund, set the reminder. Then come back and type done.